I'm Natalie, and this is my lit quick blog. I've decided to discuss the poetry collection, The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi. It was first published about this time last year, and joined her first self-published collection as a New York Times bestseller. I actually only found myself a copy of this a few months ago because of a friend's recommendation, but I really enjoyed the book. It's easy to read, and I picked it up and just kind of tore through it pretty quickly. She writes simply, not in a bad way, but in a relevant and universal way. It's vivid, it's metaphorical, it's musical and symbolic, though she does have some one-liners that kind of make me like, move on and not really think about them again. But she has some pretty hard-hitting and beautiful pieces that really lead me to understand why her work has become so popular. So The Sun and Her Flowers is composed of 5 chapters, with each chapter representing a different stage in her life. There are many themes discussed from beginning to end, but the overreaching theme is about growth, linking this metaphorically to the qualities of nature, with the chapters titled as The Cycle of the Plant Life. The first chapter is called Wilting, about grief. The second is called Falling, about sexual assault and self-abandonment. The third is Rooting, about honouring her roots, touching on her family and culture, and being a woman of colour. And the fourth is Rising, about new love. The fifth chapter, Blooming, is about empowerment, specifically in self-love, being a woman, and social activism. So the whole collection is led by 3 verse poems. They're like bite-sized and super accessible. She avoids difficult metaphors using more clear language, which I think is her aim here. I think she's using basic language in an effort to make the poems more readable, reaching out to those who might not know that they need her down-to-earth, smart and poised words to help them through something she herself has experienced. I think the collection is basically tender words for difficult moments in life. Throughout the collection, she refers back to the title and theme repeatedly in each stage of her life, as she shares experiences through the metaphor of plants. An example from the chapter Falling is a poem titled Depression is a Shadow Living Inside Me. Yesterday, when I woke up, the sun fell to the ground and rolled away. Flowers beheaded themselves. All that's left alive here is me, and I barely feel like living. Rupi's poems have next to no rhyme. They flow musically and are rhythmic when reading, but there's no focus on rhyming or near rhymes at the end of lines, which I really enjoy putting into my own work. Although our style of poetry is quite different, they do share commonalities. The first I found is the use of italics to show dialogue. She uses this to visually display the difference between who has said something to her or what she said herself, and the action or the thoughts she's having at the same time. From the chapter Falling is this untitled poem about body image, using italics for voice. So it goes, "Why are you so unkind to me?" my body cries. "'Cause you don't look like them," I tell her. And another untitled poem at the end of this chapter, Falling, that also features on the back. It acts as a description for the book and a halfway point in the collection. It goes, "This is the recipe of life," said my mother, as she held me in her arms as I wept. "Think of those flowers you plant in the garden each year. They will teach you that people too must wilt, fall, root, rise, in order to bloom." I really enjoyed this aspect in my own poem, Let Me Dance. I felt it visually enhanced the piece and provided a clear direction for the reader as to who is speaking. And, like Rupi's poem, the different voices are separated by lines that aren't italicized. Secondly, where our work has differences in length, I found we had similarities in structure, not only in some of the poems we've written, but how in each collection, though mine's much smaller, they both grew. Rupi's quite literally revolved around that theme. I had simply just wanted to wanted the growth from the sad to lonely and struggling to someone who was happy and empowered and had found themselves in my work. I noticed that we both considered that as a narrative role when organising our poems on the page. I feel it allows the reader to sympathise and connect more so that they're more invested and happier for you when they reach the good bits. The poems themselves are varied in length. Rupi has some poems that are simply one line, many are 2 or 3, and others that are pages. At first, when I started writing poetry, I hadn't considered creating a short poem, such as the ones that Rupi's well known for. But I found when reading hers that some of them don't need anything else. They're more powerful with less in them. I experimented with a few short ones in my poetry collection, like Oyster, which, because of its length, is much more powerful to me when I read it. It really encases in those 2 lines how meaningful my relationship with my Della was. I also noticed when I incorporated the shorter poems in between my longer ones, it broke up the constant rhythm and made things more interesting. Yeah, so that's The Sun and Her Flower.